Well, hi, Dave. Thank you for sitting with me this afternoon to talk about why Big Brothers Big Sisters of New Hampshire is so important to you. Um, I'm looking forward to talking with you. So tell me about how you first got involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters of New Hampshire and what motivated you.
Well, my wife and I moved to New Hampshire. We lived all over the country, and we moved to New Hampshire in 2017. And we don't, and I'm sort of semi-retired at that point, and we don't have children. And and so, I have nieces and nephews, and I like spending time with them. And in my career, sort of did a lot of mentoring, hiring and mentoring of younger colleagues. And so I thought it was just a good way to get involved, have some younger kids in my life, and try to help out some kids who some littles who could use some guidance, leadership, supervision, whatever. So mentorship, I guess, is the best word. So I've been doing it now. I'm on my second little and really enjoying it.
That's so great. And it's, as you're from the Lakes region, and we've just recently moved into that area just over a year or so now. And, the Lakes region, we're so thrilled to be in that area and to have folks like yourself involved from that region. So tell me a little bit, you were just mentioning you're on your second little, and I believe his name is Edward.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about I know you're kind of new, but to your relationship, but tell me kind of some of your favorite moments right now with him.
Well, we're sort of like a coronavirus big little combo, because we met in person, I don't know, 3-4 times before this all kicked in. So that's probably really good that happened. We got to, go on a hike and play games and all that sort of stuff. And so since then we probably meet more frequently. We definitely meet more frequently because of coronavirus than we would have otherwise. It would have probably been every week or two, but we pretty much talk every week or exchange messages a couple times a week. And he's just a really, really good kid, really high energy. He's engaging. He's sort of up to try new things, and it's been a really good match, I think.
That's great. And have you, just getting to know him, what have you learned from him so far in your relationship?
Well, it's fun to challenge him. Like we went on a hike, and I probably didn't anticipate how much snow was going to be left, but it wasn't a hard hike, but it was hard enough, and he had never done that before. And so I just assume anybody that lives in New Hampshire gets out and walks, and so he hadn't done it before, and he was, and I know he's going to probably see this, so he was complaining a little bit, halfway up, but we got to the top of the hill mountain, and incredible view, and you could tell that he was really excited to have done it. Took a bunch of photos and shared it with his mom and his family, and so it was neat. Challenge, a little bit of challenge and a little bit of trying something new, and showing that he could do it. And we've done that with a bunch of things, whether it's learning to play chess, or lately, like, challenged him to learn to tie 4 knots, and literally I had to go learn them as well, and so it's just a little bit of pushback, like, I can't do it. I'm like, no, I know you can do it. You're smart, watch a YouTube video and all that. And he learned them before I did. And so, yeah, it was funny. It was like the day before the call, and I'm like, hey, I got to go learn these things. So yes, it's been good. We do some repetitive stuff. I mean, some of the same games and things, but pretty much try to find something challenging, out of our collective comfort zone before every meeting or every call.
That's so great. And I love your example of the hike, and realizing that he had never done that before. A lot of our children in our program haven't experienced some of the simplest things that most of us take for granted, or just assume that everyone's done it. And so again, it's just points to how important this program is, and the exposure alone, and learning these new things, and the challenge of it. And really, like, it sounds like already, I mean, he's you're coaching him along and just encouraging him, and that's just amazing. That's exactly what our mentors are to do. So that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. So, I mean, you're obviously a big, and it sounds like you've said a lot about how in your past work, that mentorship was important to you, and beyond that, like what does it mean to give back? Like you're also a donor. Tell me a little bit about, why that's important to you too.
Well, a lot of people talk about doing things. They talk about how charitable they are or how caring they are. I just have I've had a lot of mentors that sort of made it clear to me that you got to do it. You have to find things that you're passionate about, or at least you're interested in, or you think you want to do, and you have to actually do it. Because it's when the first time's easy to do. It's the 17th time. We're active in the boat club and doing this, and sometimes it's not convenient or it's not easy, and it's personally rewarding to push yourself through it. And so since we've moved to we used to give more to national charities and things like that, and now I think this year it wasn't all local. There's some college, some school things and things like that, but we primarily now, at least this year and last year, are giving, especially in the age of coronavirus, doing to a lot of local things like Meals on Wheels. And in Wolfboro, we have the Nick, which is like an outdoor recreation place for kids, and New Hampshire Public Radio, New Hampshire PBS. So I just think it's important to find things that you believe in and you think are doing good work, and then both with your time and your own contributions, but also your money, because there's other people like you and Kate and others, and we're all worse off if these things don't exist. So yeah, it's a little bit of put up or shut up, and a lot of times I feel like a lot of people publicly talk about doing a lot of things, and they post on Facebook about these things they support, but I'm not. Maybe I'm a little more cynical. I'm I'm not always convinced that they're actually putting their time and their dollars behind them. So we try to do that.
Well, and we can't even tell you how much we appreciate it. And it's from my standpoint and working with donors, it's whether you can give $5 or 5,000 or 20, whatever the amount is, it is always going to make a difference. Every penny literally counts, and we so appreciate that.
And it's also nice, like I don't mention it a lot. I'll mention it like, oh, I have a meeting with my little, but I'm actually going to see somebody today at 3:30 at the boat club where I'm a volunteer. Or whatever the term is. And I know one of the other guys is like, hey, I want to learn more about that. Because he saw me, actually it was for one of the fundraisers. I didn't even realize it. It was one of those where you give on Facebook, and I didn't realize that it had gotten posted to my wall. I would have still probably done it, but those sometimes drive me nuts. But then you end up getting a whole bunch of donations from people who are excited to support because they see you're supporting it. And so, but I almost like the people that want to get actually involved, you know what I mean, like they want to become a big, or to become a board member or whatever, because I just know how much it makes it so much more rewarding, like when you put your own effort into it, because you see that this isn't the photos of the happy gathering. That's one part of it, but it's it's actually doing the calls and coming up with the events and trying to keep things interesting and and a little bit of challenging. It makes it like I always, when I'm driving back from the meeting with a little, it's almost like it's always like, oh, I'm really glad I did that, even though it may have been inconvenient or in the middle of a busy week. It's like the thing you remember during the week.
That's so great. And it is, it's for you to be able to share your passion, what you're doing in your local community, in your state, to make a difference, and sharing that with others and bringing light to the impact our organization is doing in the communities is so important. We're so grateful for that, because without that, and you touching your networks, it's, oftentimes we, and me personally talking with folks, they've heard about Big Brothers Big Sisters, and yes, there's a lot of fun hikes and dog walks and throwing the ball in the park, but the program is much more than that. And as you learn through your relationship with your little and others doing our program, that sometimes people think, well, gosh, is that really going to make a difference? And that consistency and that encouragement and that person in their corner, it really does, and we see that firsthand. So I love that you're able to, talk with other folks in the community and tell them, your belief in it, because it's not until they hear that and that the light bulb really kind of goes off and they're like, I think I could do something too.
Yeah, we all take it for granted, really. I mean, like
Mm.
and I like to say we all had this great teacher or this boss, but I don't, you got to remember that that's an assumption, that they have that teacher or that boss or
Mhm.
that family member, and maybe they do, and so you can add one more to the list to be there for them. But I also think there's just, there's probably a fair amount of kids, even that where I went to school in Pennsylvania, that maybe didn't have that teacher that they think about really regularly. Like, I worked at Arthur Anderson before they went, before they went out of business. But like, I still remember 2 or 3 people, and they probably don't even know that they were as impactful. I tell certain stories over and over again about something somebody said to me, and I
Mhm.
think about somebody in college or somebody, in a work situation or a Boy Scout situation or whatever, and you don't know where it's going to come from. And so, it's sort of like baseball. You're going to strike out, 7 out of 10 times, but if you're out there trying to make a difference, and a few of them are going to pay off, and you don't know where that's going to be 20, 30 years down the road. Like, you're not going to
Mhm.
probably have a direct connection from this to that. But, if you're making enough attempts, and that's what organizations like this do as a whole, but it's also what all the individual, bigs do. And actually the littles who are also taking a chance, like they're
Mhm.
saying, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'm not sure. I probably didn't need it when I was a kid, but I'm not sure if I did need it, that I would have had the confidence to say, yeah, I want a big brother, so even that's a sort of a bold thing.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because it's like it's a very vulnerable position,
right.
for everybody. And yeah, to kind of throw themselves in there. And it's interesting because a lot of our recommendations are coming, directly from parents, and or their kids. And what I love about it too is those kids are learning at a young age, as I'm sure you can see firsthand, the concept of philanthropy or the giving back and what that looks like. And oftentimes we hear, I can't wait to be a big. How old do I have to be a big? And
Right.
and so they're already starting to think that way. And I love that. I mean, that's one
Yeah.
of my favorite, I think, things that, I mean, our mission is amazing, but just that concept that we're really like instilling this, in our youth, it's so important, you
Yeah,
know.
I think about that, like even back to like playing baseball when you're a kid, or Boy Scouts, or whatever. You don't think
Mm.
about it at the time that those are volunteers that have lives and that are
Yep.
putting all this time. And so part of it, probably part of the reason that I volunteer and do these things is that you without even thinking about it, you're like, as you get older, you think, oh, those people did that for me, and so that's probably a long-term beneficial impact for all of the littles, whether they get involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters or they get involved in, whatever else they're interested in. It's just setting a good example.
We really can't thank you enough, and I love that we had this time to chat.